remember that story? Yeah. Okay, why was that such a big deal, right? Because he didn't have a car. And what else did he have besides not having a car? Anybody loud enough for me to hear? Well, he had a job. Yeah. No. But to get there was his challenge. Yeah. Do you remember how long he said he walked every day to get to work?
2 hours.
2 hours each way. Okay, so that's 4 hours of his day every day that he's spending walking. Now, I don't know about you, but I usually get in my car, and depending on the room, I would say between 5 and 45 minutes. 45 minutes is probably on the high end for most of us for commutes, right? So just the amount of time. Transportation, cars is not just the only issue, especially in Detroit. We just do not have reliable public transportation. Other cities do, we don't. This M1 line, anybody familiar with the M1 line that's going into Detroit? Yeah. Do you know where that starts and where that ends? Yeah. Where does it start and where does it end? Long enough for me to hear.
It starts down around Jefferson, around Hart Plaza, and it's going to go all the way up to the Fisher Building, basically. It's just in the New Center area. It's like a 3-mile stretch.
So why would that be an issue?
It's totally useless for anybody who wants to come into the city or wants to have a job going out of the city. It doesn't do anything.
Thank you for understanding that. So many people are so excited about this M1, but you know who it's helping? It's helping all the yuppies downtown.
Yeah.
It's not helping the poor people. The poor people live north of Grand Boulevard, and it stops at Grand Boulevard. So if you live north of Grand Boulevard in central Detroit or in New Center or in Hamtramck, and you need to go downtown, the M1 does not help you. Right. Now, I live in Midtown, so it's going to help me, but I'm not excited about it because it's not helping the people that need help. Yes, sir?
Have you read any of the stories about all these municipalities and stuff are using fines that's part of the city's income, and a lot of it affects the poor people because they get fined and they can't pay it off, and it just keeps, and they go to jail and debtor's prison basically.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, sir.
I just spent the last week in Dublin, Ireland, and in some ways you're a lot more advanced than us, I have to say, because their bus system is unbelievable. Everybody uses it. It goes out to the suburbs, comes downtown. Buses are going everywhere all day long. People use it. It's full. And, there just isn't something like that. You see,
we have very unreliable buses.
Standing there on a winter's day.
Yeah, waiting hours. Some people wait hours for a bus.
These buses come right on schedule.
Yeah.
All day long.
Yeah, and ours don't. So do you see how just that one slice of the pie, I'm only talking about one slice of this pie because that's all I have time to talk to you guys about. But that one slice of the pie looks completely different in poverty than it does in middle class. My daughter, before we adopted her, was living in North Chicago, and she was working at Six Flags. In order to get there, she took 2 buses. It took her 2 hours. She made minimum wage. She had to give half of her paycheck to her grandmother, and on weekends the buses didn't run. So she had to pay a neighbor to take her, and he sometimes requested sexual favors. Okay, so transportation is a huge difference in how the culture looks. And if you don't understand that going in, you make assumptions that are wrong. Something I want you to write down on that slide, if you're a note taker, if you're not, that's okay, but if you're a note taker, something to think about is how problems in poverty are interlocking. So if my car breaks down, okay, so number one, problems are interlocking. If my car breaks down, what is the first thing that's going to happen? I can't get to work, I'm going to
lose your job.
Lose my job, thank you, sir. And when I lose my job, what is the next domino to fall?
You don't have an income or anything, you don't have a place to live.
I lose my housing, right? So in poverty, problems are interlocking. Not so much in middle class, right? Because if I have four young adult children, so there were 6 of us, and we didn't always have enough cars to bounce all those people around. But we had relatives and neighbors who were willing occasionally to lend us a car. So usually you have other resources in middle class that you can kind of lean on for a minute, or you have AAA. But not so in poverty. So problems tend to be interlocking. I already mentioned survival mode. That's, you're very present focused, you're trying to solve concrete problems and get through the moment. Tasks take longer in poverty. I'd like to tell a story, and I'm going to make it quick. I used to do, as I mentioned, I used to do inner city work in Chicago, and I lived in the suburbs and drove in then. Didn't do it from living in the city like I do now. And I was doing laundry one day. I don't know if any of you guys do laundry. I do a lot of laundry. I had 4 kids at the time. At home. I still have 4 kids. They're just not at home. Praise the Lord. Thank you, Jesus. Survived that. So I was getting ready to go to work, and I threw a load of laundry in and showered and did whatever, and then threw it in the dryer and got the kids off to school and then folded my laundry, right? I mean, just kind of real easy, right? I was driving into Chicago that day, and I noticed a woman crossing the street. She had a toddler in her hand. She had one of those umbrella strollers. I don't know if you guys know what those are, but it's got the little lid on it. And she had a big sheet or a blanket and all of her laundry bundled on top, and she had an infant in the stroller. So she's carrying this laundry, got a toddler, and she's crossing the street. And I just thought, I get it. It takes me 20 minutes, to change loads and to fold a load of laundry. How long do you think it took her with 2 kids just to do laundry, right? So you got to be thinking, tasks take longer. Because tasks take longer, guess what's not up on there that we're going to see when we look at middle class? Hobbies? Not up there, right? Vacations? Not up there. We have that in our middle class circle, right? Okay, so 4 things. Relationship-based, present-focused, or survival mode. Problems are interlocking, and tasks take longer. I like to tell stories of taking my kids to the pediatrician in middle class and seeing nice fish tanks and clean waiting rooms and pleasant people, and then taking the girls that I mentored to the health department and volumes being loud and static on the TV and vending machines with junk food and no fish tanks and dirty and broken chairs. Just looks different. Taking your kid to the doctor looks different in middle class than it does in poverty. So if you want to go to the next 2, there's 2 more things I want to show on this slide. Okay, so that's what I just talked about. Social services, like taking your kids to the doctor, it just looks and feels different. Police is a great one. When I'm in my middle class suburb and the police drive by and have one of the girls I'm mentoring from poverty with me, and a policeman drives by and they might smile and wave at me, Miss Nancy, do you know him? Because that's not how the police treat them in poverty. It's honking their horn, it's screaming at them, it's rolling down the window and yelling. That's their experience of police. So even just our experience of police looks very different. Church, oh my, I went from Northridge to Citadel of Faith. Okay, I don't have time to tell you all the differences in that environment. Okay, and then keep going. Our businesses look different, right? So we have pawn shops instead of jewelry stores. We have laundromats instead of dry cleaners. We have dollar stores, instead of, has anybody, you guys probably haven't because you don't live there, tried grocery shopping in the city of Detroit? That's probably my biggest struggle in adapting to the new culture. I don't have a grocery store. I go to the suburbs to shop. We're a desert for grocery stores, okay? So you're getting the picture. It looks different, right? So let's unpack a little bit middle class. I did talk a lot about it, but just let's look at some things that are on there. So do you notice on this one, do I have it up there? I don't have a JOB, instead I have a, okay, so what comes with a career that doesn't come with a job? Benefits, awesome, thank you. What else?
Advancement.
Security.
Advancement, security. Vacation, thank you.
Stability.
Stability. What about your identity? What about retirement? You don't get those with a job, but you get that with a career. Very different. Again, one slice of the pie and how very different it looks and feels. In the middle of middle class, I have achievement there. We're very achievement-based or task-based, and education is very important. Now, why do you think education might be more important in middle class than it is in poverty? It's loud enough for me to hear you, please. Anybody have any ideas? Careers?
Possibility moving to the next level.
If you live in poverty, now think about this, you live in poverty and you're fortunate enough to get an education, what do you do? Once you get an education and a career, where do you go?
You move out of this.
So it's very hard when you live in poverty to see the payoff of an education, because education moves away. So one of the things we're really lacking, and this is a great crowd to tell this to, one of the things we are really lacking in the city is successful, professional, male role models. Because when they get successful and professional, they move out. We are a grocery desert, but we're also a healthy male role model desert. Because success moves away. So we don't have successful men in the city. So education and achievement are your driving forces. Okay, we talked about education. In middle class, you have a more stable environment. So your needs are kind of met, right? I mean, when my kids were like in middle school, I could start to maybe think ahead about, we were putting money away for retirement. We were starting to put money away for college. Well, you can see out your time span, usually about 2 to 4 years in middle class is an average. Depending on how far above your needs are met, your time horizon starts to rise, okay? So most people in middle class can see out 2 to 4 years, okay? So you tend to be more future focused when you're in middle class because your immediate needs are met. You're not constantly solving concrete problems right now. So you kind of have a time focus difference. You're thinking about the future. Anybody in here right now planning for a vacation?
Nicaragua.
Anybody right here,
Well
right now,
played.
planning for retirement? Anybody planning to pay for their kids to go to college? Okay, so do you see how you have to be future focused to even be thinking about that, to be planning about it? Okay, so it's just a very different way that our brains even work when we're in middle class versus when we're in poverty. Okay, usually problems can be contained to one area. We talked about that with the car, right? So the 4 things I would like you to remember from middle class are: we are achievement-based, we are future-focused, our problems can be contained to just one